welcome to the Secure Dynamics TechCast. With me, I have one past guest, Mike Manrod, who is the CISO at Grand Canyon Education. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Ashwin.
And thanks to Mike, we have a new guest, Daniel Schuler, who is the CISO at Exponent. Welcome, Daniel.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Definitely. So let's start with a question that I think is pretty broad and I think applies to lots of industries. But Daniel, I mean, what you're seeing at Exponent, how have businesses shifted when it comes to priorities? And as a result of that, how has cybersecurity either kept up or had to radically make changes?
Sure, and I'll talk first from the business. The business that we have very much coordinates with our clients. We like to be face to face. We like to be hands on. A lot of our work requires some hands on type work, and as we do these inspections or site visits or tests of systems, the ability to engage with our customers and our clients to have them be involved in that as well. I think that's what's changed it mostly from the business side. Now, backing cyber or even IT infrastructure changes into that becomes this maybe widening of the door that's been available to our environment. It's been a different way to authenticate users into the environment, and we're working through those challenges and changes, but ultimately all in a good way.
Mike, what about you? What are you seeing in the broader education space?
Well, there were the obvious initial challenges of, okay, we have some ground people who need to go online for a bit. We have some people in offices that need to go out of offices. That's pretty typical. And then the obvious technology changes that have become cliche at this point because everybody's had to make them. Ordering more laptops, dealing with your network perimeter no longer being, a main defense now that everybody's distributed. Yeah, I feel like that stuff's pretty standard. But I feel like there have been broader business and technical challenges, like how do we measure productivity? Mm-hmm. How do we ensure the availability of systems now that people are operating out of home? When somebody complains that, hey, I'm dropping phone calls if they're in a sales role, or hey, I'm having this availability issue, is it that they're far from their Wi-Fi? Is it that they're having problems with their router? Is it that they have the cheapest internet plan you can possibly buy? Or is it that we're overtaxing our infrastructure in new ways because, we have 10,000, video sessions like this going at all times, particularly at peak times. So as we look at those things, we've added many more troubleshooting steps to the process. And I feel like our service delivery models have had to evolve. And I also feel like our help desk and support infrastructure, support folks have had to become much more mature and have had to develop new playbooks to adapt to that.
So sticking with that develop new playbooks, and Mike, continuing with you for a moment, is I was talking to somebody earlier today, and he mentioned something that I found to be quite illuminating, right, to put it mildly. And he was talking about the fact that, hey, Zoom fatigue, we've talked about it, right? 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever. And he was saying it's finally come to a point, and he works for a large corporation, is asynchronous communication is where they're headed forward. Realizing that you don't have to have 10 people staring at the camera or staring at the screen, depending on how you like to adapt yourself, is no longer needed, right? And Slack being bought by Salesforce is an example of that. So pushing forward, knowing what we've learned and the pivoting that you mentioned, how do you think forward-looking organizations are realizing that, hey, this, like you said, the work from home is real, technology reliance and internet speeds, all those are real, but we also have to start adapting to this more digital-only lifestyle, and what are the changes that you're seeing in your industry?
Well, I think we need to make more changes than we are. Yesterday was definitely one of those 13, 14 hours continuously on Zoom days. And those definitely wear us all out. There's definitely a fatigue factor there. And then I look at the productivity of how we handle things using platforms like chat, like Slack or Teams or any of the different, Discord, any of the chat platforms. And we really can be more productive asynchronously, I think. And I feel like we need to figure out how to do a little bit more of that.
Daniel, your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I'll just piggyback on that. We need to be doing more with that. And, you know, unfortunately or fortunately, I always think about things in the security aspect. But if I try to apply some of that to the business, I think about awareness training, user training, and how we try to get our users up to speed on not clicking on phishing links. But, you know, how do we get our users up to speed on how they actually interact with their home networks appropriately, or how they make a change to their router to do some quality of service for some good quality phone calls, whatever that might be. I think we have some opportunity to continue some training for our users in that space. The you know, very closely related to that, and this might even be a call out or a win for some that have outsourced help desks, is the idea that those help desk skills are needing to evolve as well. You know, I can look through our, you know, service desk queue and see, you know, that it's a very significant increase in, hey, my computer's not connecting to the network. And that's not just a, are you connected to the VPN question anymore? It's, is the internet service in your home up? Is your router doing this? Is your Wi-Fi signal strong? So that evolution, I think, is going to continue to play out, and that's part of the new playbook, if you will.
So one last question, and this is something top of mind for every part of the universe of the world, as you call it, which is the vaccinations that are coming up, right? And there's this innate fear about how good is it going to be, how effective is it going to be, but drawing a parallel to our security universe, right? Vulnerability is disclosed, zero-day patch is coming up, and the fear of, okay, is the cure going to be worse? Is there going to be a trough of pain? How long is it going to be? So how do you think, Daniel, this is going to, I mean, what can we learn from what we've learned through the security landscape and be aware of what's coming up in the healthcare side?
I hope we don't learn the same things we learn in the security side to the vaccination side. And I do liken this to a very early patch released for a very widely distributed system that we may be using. You know, how good is a fix that just has come out? And I think in the security world, we see things break. In the healthcare vaccination world, I hope things don't break, because that has a different result than just a system we have to try and restore and get working. So I'm finding it very fascinating to follow that topic and see the efforts, because, you know, just like we are quarantining or distancing ourselves, we like to do those same things with our systems. We segment them from our networks. We try to limit their communications with things to keep them safe. It works. And you know, I liken vaccinations to patches, so they also work. But how we can safely do it, very curious to see how that goes.
Mike, I'm sure you have thoughts on this.
Well, I love what Daniel said, and I'll continue to build on that with the security analogy of defense in depth. The one thing that gives me cause for optimism is if we had one vaccine, we blasted it out everywhere based on one study and just called it good, I'd be more concerned with that. I do like that we have 3 vaccine candidates that are near the finish line. 2 of them have really promising numbers over a pretty large data set, so the math part of that is encouraging. And I also really like the idea of layered defenses. So if we continue to socially distance, if we continue to wear masks during a transition point, I guess continue to may even be the wrong word, actually start practicing that that's kind of like if users would stop clicking malicious links. But you know, and if we have redundancy of vaccines, but like attackers, viruses tend to evolve, so let's just hope we can evolve faster. Unlike attackers, viruses, hopefully at this stage at least, are not sentient or sentient backs, so that does give us one edge.
I like it.
Very cool. So one final question, again, to both of you. I call this lightning round, 60 seconds or less, which is one attack vector that you think 2021 is going to bring forth And if so, what is that? Or maybe a revival of something that has been dormant for a while. Let's start with you, Daniel.
I think the users, this might be too easy of it, but I think the users' home networks are going to be more and more of an attack vector. We fortunately haven't seen a lot of things develop in that space, but as maybe some of our attackers are getting more aware of how that's working, I'm very interested in figuring out ways to enable that security there.
Mike?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I would add 2020's definitely been the year of live off the land attacks, power exploit, evasive tools that don't leave as much of a trace or conventional signature or residue. I think that 2021 that trend will just continue and magnify. We'll see a lot more obfuscation, a lot more live off the land attacks. And ransomware as a service seems to be a really effective business model. So unfortunately, I think we'll probably see a lot more of that.
Hopefully you have better defenses against that. So thank you for your time, Daniel and Mike.